All right, let's wrap up a bit because I know you've got a busy schedule. It's a busy day today for all the hockey people. We've all got articles now to write because a lot happened. But I want to wrap up with kind of you touched on it a bit earlier, which is looking ahead to the future, kind of looking at what the future holds for GMs. And you mentioned analytics. I think that's going to be a part of it. I the way I see the future is kind of similar, oddly enough, to the past of what makes some good GMs great is you're going to have to a lot of the great GMs, they have an analytics department. They have scouts who are also just boots on the ground. They have a good scouting department. And I think I actually see this on the AHL level. You can tell which teams scout well and not which teams don't based on do they have a team in the building all the time. Like there are some teams that they'll have a team at the AHL arena every night just because they want someone there getting a good view on just even to pick up stuff from around the league. And you could see there are some teams that they always have scouts in the building, or they sometimes have scouts who tell them stuff, and then their analytics back up or their data backs up what they're seeing and what they're saying. I think for the future, you're going to look at the GMs that, aside from handling everything, both on and off the ice, they will have obviously different opinions coming at them from different sides. Like they'll have their analytics department, their scouting department, all their training, their psychological department, or like sports psychology. I guess sports psychology is the best way to put
Yeah,
it. Like,
sports psychology, for sure.
yeah, like that department. I'm just trying to think. Like, there's definitely because GMs people don't realize that they'll have people come in, especially with like a goalie, where the sports psychologist comes in and says like, okay, this is how you have to play him because this is what the goalie's taught me, or this is what the goalie's told me. And sometimes you have the goalie coach who does that, but all these people who they communicate with everyone, and they listen to all sides of everything, but they're the ones making the decisions. They're the ones ultimately pulling the pulling the trigger or pulling the plug, or whatever analogy you want to use. That's kind of what I see, and I think that sort of background or that philosophy has been true since the beginning of not just hockey operations and hockey front offices. It's been true of all sports that the GM at the end of the day is the one making the call, and you still need one person who just that everything goes through them, and they're the ones making the call. I kind of though want to hear you touched on it a bit, but what you feel like is the future for successful GMs that you're seeing some of it also with like Bill Zito and with Julian Brisebois with some of them that they've been successful kind of other teams trying to copy them. We haven't even mentioned Jim Mill this whole podcast, and
Yeah, that's crazy.
he's the reigning three-time Jim Gregory Award winner, going on four because inevitably he's going to make a trade, and that's going to get him the fourth one. But anyway, I digress. What do you feel the future holds for successful GMs?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's a collaborative effort kind of thing. I think if you look at what Florida has down there, there's Bill Zito, but he's talked about how I think is it Brett Peterson who's also one of the AGMs there too. Brett Peterson or Bill Peterson, maybe if I'm getting that right. Sorry if I screwed that name up to whoever the other AGM is. But yeah, they have a collaborative effort. There's Sonny Mehta there. In Dallas, you have Jim Nill, but I think a lot of people talk about how Rich Peverly has been like a big factor in drafting some of these players that the Stars have gotten in recent years, whether it's Wyatt Johnston or Thomas Harley, etc. He's been a big part of it there. The analytics thing, I mean, pretty much every NHL team has analytics to some degree. Some teams have bigger departments than others. So I think using that information you get from your analytics team and then kind of combining that with your pro scouts, your amateur scouts, I think it's all a collaborative effort. But like you said, at the end of the day, there's one person who makes the final call, and that's usually the GM. In most cases, it's not president of hockey of operations. So even though NHL front offices are expanding and they're getting bigger and they have more departments than they used to, you're still, I don't think anything will change as far as general managers go. You're always still going to have the one guy who's making the final call. There'll always be, or hopefully one woman at some point. Maybe that'll happen one day. There's been few women who've gotten
I
into
was
assistant
I was
general
thinking the same
manager.
thing by the way. We were saying one guy or one guy, but it's like
Yeah,
we're saying it in passing, like it's in like one person. Like
right. Yeah,
yeah, maybe we'll have that someday as well. Where I mean, you are seeing a lot of teams that have women in their front offices, which is a big plus. Which is I've said it about coaching too. That for women coaching, it's like where okay, people are like, well, they're gonna fail, and I'm like, well, a lot of coaches have failed too. A lot of GMs have failed too. So
yeah, of
they can't
course.
do worse than some of the clowns that have been hired in the past. But I digress. I'm talking too much on social issues that probably are social things that I probably shouldn't be talking about. But anyway, I digress. What if you keep talking about the future of hockey? you were saying future GMing, it's sort of that. Keep going on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just I think as I think back in the day, you like let's to bring it back to Lou Lamoriello, but I would assume he was really the one calling the shots when he was the Devils. When they were winning Stanley Cups and like that. And I think it's really changed. I'd say like the last 5 to 10 years, closer to five probably, where I think NHL front offices have expanded to include their analytics department, their scouting staffs. Everything's a lot more collaborative. I mean, even when it comes to amateur scouting, I think there's some teams that are using analytics. NHLE is kind of like the big thing for amateur scouting. So I think so much has changed that yeah, it's just everything's a collaborative effort now, but at the end of the day, you're always going to have your GM who's making the final call. And what the GMs will look like moving forward, I don't know. It could be more analytics types, it could be, former players. I think the NHL is really the league that uses former players the most when it comes to front office roles, especially general managers and stuff like that. And that doesn't necessarily mean they were NHL greats or even like great play or depth players. Maybe they just got a cup of coffee in the NHL or something like that. But most of them played at the pro level at some degree, and it'll be interesting to see if that changes in the future. It certainly has changed a lot in baseball. And yeah, I don't follow the NBA as much as I used to, but I feel like it's changed a lot in the NBA as well. So it'll be interesting to see if the NHL kind of, I guess, progresses the way other leagues have trended to in North America.
Yeah, I think that's another interesting part is the players, and it's interesting because like I feel like the type of player, the player types are going to remain the same. Kind of like with coaching, is that you don't really see goalies that become head coach. You see the same
Right.
positions that become head coaches. I think you're going to see the same with GMs. Usually with head coaches, it's depth defensemen and third line centers
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's like those player types. You can already picture in your head, okay, which
Yeah,
players
for
filled that
sure.
played that role, and it's because with the both of them, like with with those players, like they've had to do it all. It's similar in football where a tight end ends up becoming very good at whatever they do next, usually when they retire, because they've been asked to do it all when they're playing. So now when they do it all, they're gonna whatever it is, whether it's announced, whether they're broadcasters or whether they're coaches or GMs. So I think you're kind of see that as well. Kind of a third line center. It's like they're asked to play every type of role and everything. So it's like, okay, when they're asked to do it all there, it's easier for them to do that as well. I think you're going to see a lot of that. It's interesting you mentioned going back to the days of Lamorello. I would even go back further, which the days of the Montreal Canadiens. Just a funny story in the '70s is that Scotty Bowman had a meeting with the players. So he had a players meeting where he's like, all right, we're going to vote on something. We're going to decide on something. And I think took like the 10 veterans or the 8 veterans of the team. And he said, we're going to decide what to do here. And all 6 of them, or all whatever number it was, all voted one way and he voted the other. And he said, it's close, but I decide. I'm the coach, and I decide. That's what's happening. And the players looked at each other and said, "Honestly, we were just surprised there was a meeting to begin with," which is just like it tells you how much different things are off from that perspective. Which that's just from the head coaching side, but it says a lot also from the GM side. Well, went a little longer than usual because a lot happened this week and a lot of news, and this is a fun topic we probably could go for another hour for, but we've got stuff to do and articles to write. So, Alex, that's all we got. Thank you for joining. And while you're at it, talk about where we can find you or anything interesting in the works. I mean, there's definitely something interesting in the works after today, but where can we find you and any plugs that you have? Plug away now.
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is at AlexC_NJD. I primarily write about the Devils. I have my own Substack there called Devils on the Rush. So if you're a Devils fan, check that out. But I'll also be doing a piece for the hockey writers. I'm hoping to have it out on Tuesday morning about how Quinn Hughes going to Minnesota could reshape the Western Conference playoff picture. We talked a little bit about that on the beginning of this episode too, so I'll probably expand a lot on that. We'll see. I think it'll be a big change. And then for my Devil stuff, probably take a day off tomorrow, and then Wednesday I'll probably be back with something on Jacob Markstrom and how the Devils seem to have a little bit of a dilemma on their hands with Markstrom, given how he's played this season too. So that'll be some stuff I'll have on my Substack, and then we'll see how the rest of the week goes as far as Devils content.
Yeah. I mean, it's always it's been great. I said this earlier. It's great having you back on. I definitely want to have you on more in the future. It's like that. It's like going in the shootout and just realizing, oh wait, I've had this person on my bench the whole time, and you're like, oh what? All right, I've had this player to go to. But yeah, Alex is one of the premier Devils voice, especially from the blog perspective. You have to check out his Substack. It's great stuff there, and you have to and the NHL at large. Just Alex knows a lot about hockey. Well, that's why I'm like having you on here on these
Thank you very much. I
for these
appreciate
big
that.
topics. So yeah, but that's for now. That's all we got. You could also check out my content at Hockey Hot Stove. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out all of Alex's work, my work. And we hope you enjoyed it and tune in next time for another great episode. Thank you.